Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. I am your host today, Jim Root. I'm joined by Kai McEwen and Matthew Cox. Matt is looking chilly in his IU gear in his apartment. Kai looks more relaxed, ready to rock. He's not concerned about the temp, the snows that are surging towards Chicago right now. Kai, you feeling good though? You ready to roll here?
Jim, feeling great. Yeah, the weather outside is frightful, but gosh, inside talking basketball is so delightful. Happy to be here. Nice. Live.
Yeah, we got Hoosiers tonight, Jimmy. Let's go Hoosiers. Repping the gear. They're hot. They're back. They're back. They're not going to talk much about them today. I looked at our thoughts, but I just want to give a quick shout out to Hoosier Nation out there. It's going well right now.
Yeah, hey, you got to ride the wave when it's going well, and then just completely ignore it if you can when it's not going well. Just stick to the good stuff. But yes, hello to everybody watching live. If you are listening on Spotify, SoundCloud, Auto Radio, wherever else you get it besides the live YouTube, welcome in as well. We're excited. We're back on our Wednesday schedule here after coming to you last Friday. Just a couple of scheduling snafus, classic stuff when you're scheduling a three-man podcast. But we're excited to talk hoops. We've got your Roots Roundup. We saw that. Some really good three-man thoughts. I was impressed by the boys with the thoughts coming here. Weekend preview. Going to look ahead to that. Before we get to it, shout out to Mr. Paskoff, Jay Pitty, #1 college basketball podcast intro song producer in the game.
#1 in our hearts.
Yep. Subscribe to the pod here on iTunes if you can. If you're listening there, we appreciate that. Actually, subscribe wherever you listen to your pods, but we would love reviews in the Apple world. We've got a few this week, Kai, ready to dissect these. A couple good questions too.
Let's do it. First from WJS345, road trip of all road trips. Hi 3MW. Congrats to Matt on the engagement. You guys are great. Fantastic. Random idea, he says. A three-man weave sponsored trip to all 363 D1 arenas. He admits it's insane, but he thinks our YouTube would explode with all the vlog, I suppose is how you pronounce that one.
I think so, yeah.
I would love to do this personally. Also, he says to start and to end in Mackey. We have been to Mackey together. It was one of the best places I've been. Fantastic arena. I truly love it. Of course, I'd love to do this, Jim. Is it feasible in 1 year? I don't know.
I don't think it's feasible in 1 year. And this has truly always been a dream of mine, like to go to every arena, do like a big, long 2.5 month road trip or whatever, 4-month road trip, the whole season, whatever, in like a little camper van. Unfortunately, the finances are not totally beneficial here. Got to find ways to make money. Tough to do noon shows on best bets from middle of nowhere while you're driving from site to site.
True.
If you're paying for any hotel stuff, that racks up quickly. So we have to work on the logistics and finances side of it. But I do love the idea. Very in on the idea itself.
A revised idea? Do like a venue crawl, like a bar crawl. Let's just make a path of like 15 and draw it. And then those are your nodes of your stops, basically. And I'd like to end in Hawaii. I thought about this. I think Hawaii would be a cool finish.
It's a tough drive, Hawaii.
Yes.
Yeah, probably have to go air there, I think. Or jet ski across the
take a boat. Yeah.
Take a boat.
Buy a van, a weave van, sleep in it for the road trip. We'd probably kill each other, but it would be a good content driver.
Our weave. I like that.
When we win the lottery, it'll be something I consider. I am married and Matt is engaged. This might be a little bit of an issue, but maybe they'll want us out of the house. You know how wives are, Matt.
Women
always want us out of the house. You know them.
Women.
Okay. Thanks for the review. Next review here. Ways Craze 86. Wow, that's the username. Love the podcast. You guys are good balance of banter and substance. I like that. Talk about the Power 5 and mid majors. Fantastic. Yes. How worried should I be as a Badger fan about Wisconsin? And also he wants another WeaveCon. Yes, WeaveCon 2 needs to happen. #1, Jim, you were once kind of a Badger fan. Still kind of are, I suppose. How worried should he be?
It's not as dedicated a fandom anymore. I will fully own that. But he also mentioned wanting 2 episodes a week. Again, hey, Fox, ESPN, etc. pay us to do 2 episodes a week. We'd love that. That'd be great. We'd happily do it if there was a little more money in it. Right now, it's just 1 episode a week out of love. Wisconsin, I wouldn't worry too much. I think it's a Big Ten not contender, but another one of these middle of the road squads. We'll talk about it in one of the thoughts, how much parity there is in the Big Ten. Something like a 7 to 10 seed, or even 11, like I guess they were 6 last year. Or no, they were 3. My goodness, that's right, they were 3. But I think something more towards the middle of the bracket. I think they'll get some wins in the Big Ten, especially at home. They're scrappy. They don't get blown out. They play a really disciplined style. They'll be okay. It's just not as high a ceiling team as we've seen in the past with some of the Badger squads.
Right. All right. Next review. Last review. Telestar 1. The 3 Man Weave podcast does a great job covering basketball. Yes. Lots of knowledge. Good. 2 suggestions. He thinks it'd be great to add in a few minutes on a couple of different conferences each episode, even if they aren't betting focused. We actually did do this. We used to have a conference spotlight section in our podcast. We kind of got away from it, but maybe we'll bring it back in some fashion in the future. And then a pick competition, he suggests, for the 3 of us: 3-point pick, 2-point pick, 1-point pick. Keep track, keep a scoreboard. Matt, you would like some friendly competition between the boys, would you?
I would, but I think I'm kind of smoking you guys on the preseason board bets. We should revisit.
Are you doing well on the board bets?
I
know you're beating me on the Alabama defense thing. Whatever.
I think I'm
Matt, you want to look at our best bets individual records on Field 68?
Not really. Actually,
okay.
Mine,
all right.
No, mine are very good. Jim is carrying the freight there.
No, yours are solid. We're in college. Kai has freaking
Take it up,
rallied
Kai.
lately. It's been
Kai
big. No,
rallied.
we got a rally going out of Mr. McKeon.
Hang on, we got George ringing the bell for potty break. Give me one. All
right, that's fine. We'll go on.
Rings
without
a
Matt.
bell. Huh.
Yeah, whatever.
Wow.
That's classic stuff there. He's
Interesting.
Well-behaved dog. King George gets what he wants when he wants it, Kai. But thank you, everybody, for the reviews. Keep them coming. We like those. Always give a little bit of organic content as we get going on the show. Personal corner. Yes, Matt is dealing with George, battling a dishwasher uprising, dealing with computer problems. Sounds like a whole thing in Matt Cox's world. I got an A+ gold star from my knee surgeon this morning. Kai says the recovery looks great.
Wow.
Yeah, so happy to hear that. Hopefully going down to 1 day a week soon for physical therapy, which is great because I am so sick of it, exhausted, sick of going.
Yes.
But hey, whatever. I'm not even to play basketball again anytime soon, so it's fine. But that's it. Kai, you have a big new article on the website, your road trip recap.
Yeah, it's kind of crap, but I wrote up my road trip review. It's not great. It's some thoughts on each venue, some overall takeaways from the trip. About a week late, but that's kind of how we roll at the 3 Man Weave offices. So if you're curious, if you want to read what I wrote, look at pictures, go check it out on the site, 3-man-weave.com.
Take a peek. We do love pictures. That's big time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into Roots Roundup, talk news and notes. It's time for it. Roots Roundup. But first, Kai, got to give a shout out to our boys at Home Field. We actually have a sponsor on the show and it rocks.
We do. It's our only source of income on this podcast. Thanks, Home Field. Home Field Apparel. They make premium collegiate apparel for schools of all sizes. And in fact, they're doing a bit of a redo to a lot of schools currently. They're releasing new shirts from big schools. I know Indiana got a refresh. I know Syracuse got a refresh. Purdue's looked fantastic. UConn's. These guys think of everything. I really hope Mizzou has a refresh coming. I will buy every single version of every single shirt and jogger they offer me because their stuff is so great. It's comfy. It's affordable. And it's just cool to look at. People stop me on the streets and say, "Hey man, what's that?" And I say, "It's a Home Field Apparel shirt. Go buy one." They also sell 3 Man Weave gear. You can find that link at the top of our website. On Twitter, they're at Homefield, APPARL. Tweet at them if you want your school on a shirt and they don't currently have it. And you can also get 15% off your order by typing in the promo code 3MW at checkout on your first order, that is. Homefield, wear one for the team.
All right, let's get into the news here. No key headlines really in terms of a broad landscape of the sport, but man, coaching has brought a little bit of tumult, some excitement here. Green Bay has fired Will Ryan. Cheers. I guess he's not quite the first coach fired, Kai, because Chris Beard is out there.
Sure.
Technically unemployed now.
First regular firing, we'll say.
Yeah, first firing due to performance.
Yes.
Green Bay has just been getting destroyed over and over and over again in league play. Mm-hmm. Horrific, basically, ever since they fired Link Darner. I think Kevin Sweeney summed it up best. He had a tweet that was like, in the height of the pandemic, Green Bay paid real money to get rid of Link Darner, who was doing decently well, to hire a guy with 1 year of D2 experience based on his last name, and they proceeded to finish in the bottom 15 of KenPom 2 straight years. Like, it's bad. It is bleak. I'm glad they're just kind of like admitting to the mistake right away and not letting it play out for years and years. But you could have just kept Blink Darner. Oh, what are you doing?
Yeah, played a fun style. Green Bay right now is 360th in KenPom, so like third worst team in the country. By far the two worst teams in KenPom, in the KenPom era in Green Bay's program history. There's George. Hey, George. If you recall, Green Bay once employed Brian Wardle, who's at Bradley now, and Todd Kowalczyk, who's at Toledo right now. Yeah, Green Bay, not a terrible program in the past, but gosh, they have been under Ryan. 15-61, Jim, overall. 15-61.
Hey, Kai, fan forums clamoring for apparently Wash U in our own STL backyard has a very good program, good coach. So
great program.
In general, if you can pick off a really good D3 or D2 coach, I talked about this as a thought before. That's especially your mid-major. That's the way you go. Yeah, that's where you go.
Yep, I think it bears out well. It's not a home run, but I think it's better than hiring someone with no experience. I think they thought they were getting a good D2 coach with Will Ryan, Matthew, but he'd only been there 1 year. There wasn't a whole lot of sample size to prove it out, and it just didn't work out. Couldn't bring in talent. Really, really struggled to bring in talent. Those rosters were devoid. On to Frank Martin, because he caused a stir a little bit here.
Gosh,
taking shots at fans, taking to social media to say people are coming at his players and they can't handle it, but also mad at fans for being specifically attacking certain players. I.e. mostly his son, who has a 72 O rating in almost 20 minutes a game. He's shooting like less than 26% from the field. Like it's, there's no real explanation for him being out there. But you can't tell that's Frank. Kai, what do you make of this situation?
Yeah, the one quote that stood out to me in his myriad of quotes. So on if what his players have seen on social media directly affect his players, he said yes. If not, I wouldn't speak about it. They're children. And for people to come after them, vilifying them, degrading them, I ain't the one, man. I ain't the one. Frank calling his players children. I've never heard a coach talk to his players as children. In high school, in middle school, our coaches called us men. And I'm sure Frank Martin, being the coach he is, has done the same. So it's kind of talking out both sides of your mouth. And frankly, Jim, Frank Martin's coaching style deserves to be ridiculed this season. His offense does stink. He's playing 11 guys. What are you doing, man? I don't understand. And again, stay off social media. It's the rant I went on last week as well. I don't get why the coaches had to spend so much time on it. It really shouldn't be a focus.
Yeah, the closest thing we've had to children is when like Calipari says these kids versus my guys. I know Titus and Tate do a great job of
right,
how's the team doing is based on whether he's calling them these kids or my guys. They're not kids. Basically almost every Division I college basketball player is 18 and a legal adult. So I don't really like ever calling them kids. And children? Just in this, yeah. I mean, if they have the social media, like sometimes as a public figure, and now that they have the ability to earn NIL, I feel a little bit less bad about it too. Yeah, sure. It's not just like a volunteer job. Matt, do you have any intricate thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's UMass, Frank. Like anyone who knows college basketball knows it's like the most rabid fan base out there. So I kind of, in hindsight, we should have seen like a potential powder keg brewing with Frank Martin, the guy that he is, and that fan base the way that they are with the expectations that they have, and I think largely deservingly so. Kind of an overreaction. Like the team's been fine. Like they've had injuries. I just felt like this whole scenario comes from a situation that feels like it's a team in a free fall, but like it's still a solid team that's still like very much competitive and has a chance to make a run in an A-10 tournament. Like, I don't think that's any, major headline there. So it does feel misplaced, I guess, Jim. This whole thing does.
They got a little bit victimized by their own success by winning their non-conference tournament. I think there were some expectations coming into league play with some of the underperformance of VCU, Dayton, SLU. It was like, wait, could we be the best team in this league? And now they've been really middling, and it's, I think, just frustrated people, which I understand, to be honest. Passionate fan bases are good. UMass definitely is one. I'm sure this will get sorted out in short order. Last one I wanted to mention here, just because I saw it before we were going to record, Mr. Jeffrey Borzello over at ESPN wrote an article about Dan Hurley's sideline behavior and his antics. And there's a whole bunch of back and forth in there, just straight out of Hurley's mouth of like, I get totally focused on because of past stuff, and I get specially singled out. I was like, yeah, but like 2 weeks ago, you call the guy a fucking clown, like the ref to his face. Like a lot of this stuff is earned. if you want to be the guy that's more like stable on the sideline, then you have to actually act that way and do it.
Yeah.
And claims he's working on it, Kai, but I don't really see the evidence of it. It very recently had a technical late in a game that really hurt his team.
It did.
And local writers have written about that and basically said, like, you can't do this. He's also a guy that, like, preseason all the time is like, bring the smoke. I want the smoke. Like, I think his first year in the Big East is like, you better get us now because it's coming. And it looked like this year was the year it's coming. And they're still dropping games over and over in league play. So you can't be bravado guy and leave me alone guy. Just don't do it.
Yeah, it's a puff piece. His antics have not changed. He tried. He wrote stuff on his hand, literally, in Portland, said, coach your guys, like, don't worry about the rest. And it worked when they were killing teams. But when his teams get down again and the fouls don't go his way, he's the same coach and he yells at and refs, which is fine. But you're not allowed to say that you're not that guy and you shouldn't be vilified. You can't have it both ways.
Yep. He's just an intense coach.
He's an intense coach. It's fine.
Be who you are. That's what I say. Don't try to be who you aren't. Recruiting news, very little to mention. 2024 four-star small forward Dwayne Pierce is headed to Iowa State. Look at Mr. Otzelberger capitalizing on the success of this season, reeling in athletes. Man, the defense just looks like it's going to be his calling card year after year there. They play incredible defense in your face, forcing turnovers. Injuries and suspensions, Matt. I'll kick to you here. Mr. Whitehead for Duke got hurt again. Obviously came into the year dealing with the foot fracture. Unclear what the return is now, or what the injury is now, and his return is an indefinite timetable. Fortunately, not as bad as feared. Don't think it's like an Achilles season-ending type thing, but he was just starting to round a corner. Seemed like he was playing really well, starting to live up a little bit to the recruiting hype. How much does this hurt your Blue Devils?
Yeah, it hurts the ceiling. Like, I'm kind of already selling my Duke shares. I've talked about on our best bet show. The Shire thing's not working out. He's just been a myriad of head scratching decisions, like in game, and then just general broader stylistic, how they're playing, lineups. A lot of, I don't know what's happening here. So given that, you like just to have the best talent that can lift you out of a situation where your coaching may not be as good, and Whitehead's obviously that type of talent. So yeah, it hurts long-term, no question.
Quick follow-up, Matt. How much does UNC figuring it out last year as Davis kind of floundered in his first year, does that make you feel any better about Shire, that somebody nearby was able to replace a Hall of Famer and figure it out late in year one?
A little bit, but not a ton, because like I don't feel like Hubert Davis is now deserving of being minted like some great coaches because he had one good run. So I think if I'm looking at Hubert Davis as like an exciting precedent, that's not a good sign if you're a Duke fan. That's not the path you wanted to be on at this point.
Fair. Yep. I think that's a totally reasonable point of view. Kai Luke Frampton of Western Kentucky tore his ACL. Again, that's just cringe every time I have to say that sentence. Tough for him using that extra year. Western Kentucky wasn't quite performing to the level that we thought maybe their talent had indicated in the preseason. Just a bummer for Mr. Frampton.
Yeah, unfortunate. They've had a lot of injury issues.
Yep. And then the Dante Allen eligibility stuff too. Like, it's been everything for them. Eddie Lampkin and Terquavian Smith both were mentioning because it looked like maybe we'd miss them both for the rest of the season. There was a report initially that Lampkin had done an Achilles. Terquavian Smith went to the hospital, backboard, leaving the arena. And then Lampkin returned that game and Smith returned the next game.
Yes.
Lampkin did miss the following game. He's still trying to figure out the ankle. I think it probably tightened up after a couple days, swelled up. But good to hear. Good to see that both these guys are going to be hopefully big pieces of their team still moving forward this season. Other random news and notes, Kai, before we wrap up the roundup, I kick it to you for our Reddit stat of the day.
Reddit stat of the day from Luke DM Peak via Kevin Connors on Twitter. 50 different teams have been ranked in the AP Top 25 this year. That is the most through 12 weeks in poll history. Wow.
It's wild. And I know we've had a lot of number ones too, rotated through that. Matt, it's a volatile year. There's a lot of parity. There's no great teams. What storylines am I missing?
No, we said all those. Right. We just, it's not fun for us to say them because we already said them. We told people that was how it's going to be, and that's how it's been. And so we don't need to our people know this, Jim. Those who follow this podcast are usually a step ahead of the typical, news wire waves of trends. So yeah, they're in the know. They get it. They got it.
Yeah. I'm kind of hiding a little bit because I thought Houston was an elite team and they just lost at home as a 20-point favorite. And you can't really do that and claim we are the elite team in the sport. So bad job, Cougars. Slap on the wrist. Not impressed. That is a good transition into we've saw that. Any jump out results or upsets or truly surprising stuff that didn't make it into 3-man thoughts. This is where we discuss them. Our segment called We Saw That, We Saw It. And Kai, we're starting with Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas snapping a 29-game winless streak against Big East foes. It was also like even longer, like 40-game winless streak against power conference competition.
Wow.
How about that, Mr. Ewing? Does this save his job, Kai? What?
No. It was funny. It's DePaul, right? We said on the show today, it had to be DePaul. It was always going to be DePaul. Congratulations, Georgetown. Hey, fire your coach. Just fire your coach.
Or let him gracefully resign.
Step down.
Yeah.
Patrick Ewing has decided to step down. We support his decision, says Georgetown.
All right, Matt, we're going to a couple of MAC storylines here next. Imani Bates went supernova against Toledo, 43 points. And even more remarkable, 29 straight in the first half. And we love our Rockets. It's a team we have enjoyed betting on in the past, but their defense has always been lackadaisical. And this was a just glaring reminder of it. Watching some of the highlights of Bates's performance, the lack of urgency to get around screens and guard him when he was already clearly on fire, like inexcusable. I don't get it. What happened here, Matthias?
I think Toledo actually was like kind of starting to care about defense. Here's the Toledo thing. They know they're awesome and they kind of turn on their energy and effort defensively when they want to. Without Cochran, though, it's like not as awesome defensively, and they like really don't have anyone that can like lock down on the ball. I mean, the Bates was just insane. Like I thought the effort was bad, but some of the shots he made were just bananas difficult too. I think we learned that Toledo and Kent State are both vulnerable, Jim, in the MAC. That's my general take. They're not invincible. They're very, very good. They're both vulnerable.
The defense was they weren't even trying.
I put it a lot
sending
more
a double at him. Like send a double at the guy.
He would get one off-ball screen and the guy'd be like, well, I guess I got to get around this. Oh, he already shot a 3.
Kowalczyk was like, I think we're going to let him get his and just shut down everybody else, which actually has been a good recipe against Eastern Michigan this year. Like they've been terrible when Bates has had monster games. But I mean, at some point when he's got 30 straight, maybe make a move.
Yeah, I guess we can't fully critique. Toledo did win ultimately, so
they won. They did.
It sort of worked out.
Lost, right?
Yep, exactly. You mentioned stepping on the toes of our next storyline. Yeah, Kent State losing to Northern Illinois. I know this was only, I think, a 13-point spread, so it's not like a stunning upset, but Kent State's big hopes for an at-large kind of hinge on a gaudy record because they did not accumulate any big wins in the non-con. They had some really close calls against some really good teams, but unfortunately, wins are really what get you in the field. And they were hoping to go 17-1, maybe in the MAC. It's a tough league to do that in, but they had a chance. You can't lose to a team that just lost its best player to a torn ACL.
Yeah, NIU's been weirdly feisty since that. They also hit 13 threes. I mean, that's pretty hard to do. I don't know what happened. Losing by 10 to NIU, they dropped like 20 spots in KenPom. Not great look. Not a great look for Kent State. Ouch.
Yep. It wasn't at home, so I'm not going to call it a Q5 loss, but it's certainly a Q4 loss, and it's going to be a blemish on the old tourney resume there. All right, Matt, let's go to you because this one, I want your full takes on it. I'm okay with having a discussion on it because I have a strong opinion on it. The end of the Duke game, Virginia Tech's MJ Collins scored a game winner, and a potential game winner with like 5 seconds left, as he turned to go up the floor, he spins, he pumps his fist, and he punches Kyle Filipowski in the face. It is very obviously unintentional. It was a celebratory action. But how is this not a call, Matt? Why is this a no call?
I guess by the book, but my whole issue with reffing today is that there's too much. We're trying to like over police the game with like stipulations, and I like the subjectivity of the no call, right? It's like I like more subjectivity in the black charge call, where I think refs trying to call it by the book, and it just actually results in way worse calls. So yeah, sure, it should have been a technical or a flagrant. I guess I wasn't mad about it as a Duke fan. I was just like, wow, Duke stinks. And I had broader issue thoughts on my mind from the Blue Devils perspective. And to be honest, I was fine because I felt like it was the justice was served, Kai, unintentionally or intentionally. I think the right outcome came of that.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't even a foul called. There has to be a foul. It just has to. You don't intend to trip a guy. You don't intend to run into a guy, right? You don't intend to punch a guy, but it's still a foul. It has to be called a foul. And it's pretty shocking that it wasn't. And by the rule book, if you're going to call other fouls by the book, you got to call that a flagrant as well. So I don't get it. Whatever. Duke gets a lot of calls. Who cares?
Yeah, I think like I didn't have a bet on this game. I hate Duke.
Same.
I think this is so obviously a flagrant. Like
absolutely, me too.
All the elbow stuff. Like sometimes you're not swinging your elbow to hit a guy in the face, but if the rule book like explicitly says a blow above the shoulders or whatever is a flagrant, and I couldn't believe this wasn't called. If you're going to celebrate with a fist pump, look where you're swinging your hand. It just, that seems like the bare minimum to ask of somebody. I think it's staggering that this was nothing.
In the Syracuse North Carolina game, the Syracuse guy swung his elbows over when he was doing a step through, got a guy in the face. They called it a flagrant on the offensive player, which is ridiculous.
It's not intentional either. So like it either they're both flagrants or neither's a flagrant. That's what it's got to be.
Yes.
Give us consistency. That's what we want. We want consistency. I mentioned this earlier. Temple beat Houston. This is shocking from a number one team in KenPom, number one team in the polls, the number of the spread, 19.5 points. Temple's just tough to figure out. They've got the talent. Does this frustrate you if you're a Temple fan because you can access this level of ability and just consistently don't? Where do you land on this team, Matthew, right now with McKee in charge? Does this buy him more time? What direction do you feel about the Owls?
Yeah, I think they like guard for sure. I think there's like an identity there. It's not one that's going to be consistent just because of how they play and their offense. Although I will say it looks a lot better at spots this season. I kind of buy into the McKee thing. So yeah, like if I'm a Temple fan, I'm fairly pleased with where I'm at. While it's been a turbulent ride at this point, I still like the process. I think there's actually like a real identity with this team.
Yeah, they're young enough that like next year has to be the year. If you don't really take a nice step with all these guys, and I mean, some of them are in their third year of playing college and are listed as sophomores because of COVID. But if you don't win next year, then it's a real issue. But like everybody is a sophomore by eligibility. So Kai, I definitely think you can have the put up or shut up year next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And this team, their top gear is really good. They're 2-0 now against Q1. They beat Rutgers on a neutral. They're 10-6 against Q3 and Q4. They have 6 Q3, Q4 losses.
What does that mean?
It's just like the most, it's one side or the other. A good team, bad team. Hey, George. The live podcast is great because we get to see George, who is always calm and collected, never crazy, that dog.
It's nice that he doesn't bark into the mic. It's very helpful. But we have a dog that appears visually, but not audio disrupting everything.
Right. Yes, I agree.
All right, last thing to note, and we saw that Antoine Davis of Detroit is now number 2 all time in scoring. Just a heck of a run. And I know he's had 5 years, but really right now he's had 4 because the COVID year is abbreviated. And at this point, he hasn't played a full 5th season. So I kind of buy the legitimacy of the current record. I kind of don't want him to pass Pistol Pete and get number 1 because of the extra games. Pistol Pete played 3 years, reminder, with no 3-point line.
Yeah.
But there's no way to slight what Mr. Davis has accomplished. It's really impressive.
Yeah, he's 394 points behind Pistol Pete. They have 11 games left, and then the postseason. So if they get 2 Horizon games, so if they get 13 more games, he has to average just over 30 points per game. Conceivably, he could do that.
Considering what he's done to Horizon competition recently, he had that 2-game stretch where he had 83 points and 15 threes or whatever, maybe 18 threes. Ridiculous.
I tell you what, Mike Davis will do, guarantee. He'll accept any postseason invitational that he gets from Detroit.
That's right.
Because if they go to CBI or something, boom, Antoine Davis, all-time leading scorer. You have to.
This is the story you want from postseason play. You want Detroit in the tournament. The Davis thing is a great subplot. The postseason ban thing coming out of that, the COVID disaster they had, there's a lot of good ending that could be written from the story of Detroit wins the Horizon League tourney, which they're certainly most talented enough to do so.
And you get to bet the over in a tournament game if they're in there, because who are they stopping in a
what
first
power conference team are they stopping? Nobody.
It'll be interesting to root for because, like I said, I'm conflicted. I want Pistol Pete to hold that record, considering he did it in 3, but no shortage of impressive performances by Davis over that career. Let's go to 3-man thoughts, fellas. One more segment here before we preview the weekend. This is typically our longest segment. Kai, I'm going to go to you first. What do you, either order in your 3-man thoughts, what do you want to hit the people with?
Let's hit conference parity first, Jim. Just wanted to highlight a couple leagues that are literally a race to the finish, a very, very close tied race. The Ohio Valley, currently the worst Ohio Valley ever, unfortunately, is still offering us great drama with their standings. It's a 6-way tie for first place right now with SIUE, Southern Indiana, SEMO, UT Martin, Moorhead, and Tennessee Tech. They're all 5-3. SIUE and Southern Indiana are projected to tie for first at 12-6. But hey, if your league's going to be terrible, at least let it be close and exciting like this. Who knows who's going to come out of this conference and represent the league in the NCAA tournament? But it should be fun to find out.
Yeah, I took a couple Flyers preseason. I have a Moorhead to win the league. I also have a Little Rock, which looks abysmal. They're somehow not one of the 6 teams tied for first. But I kind of want Southern Indiana to win, Kai. I just like when these new entrants to Division I do well, and then it puts a lot of pressure on the transition rule to get changed.
Yeah, it has to get changed, right? It's, Merrimack did it in their first year in the NEC. Bellarmine won their tournament. It's ridiculous we have to wait on these teams. I also have a Moorhead future. I forgot about it. It wasn't looking good. Now it's right in play. So go Moorhead. NEC, the Northeast Conference, also the worst NEC version of all time. In fact, it's the worst conference in KenPom this year.
So bad.
It's below the SWAC, below the MEAC, below the Southland. Yeah. 4 teams are projected to go 10-6. 2 more are projected to go 9-7. St. Francis, Pennsylvania, leads the way at 5-1. Fairleigh Dickinson, Stonehill, Wagner right behind. So close league again.
Let's go Wagner. Come on,
Go
Seahawks.
Wagner. Yes.
Wrong. Go Fairleigh Dickinson.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Best team in that conference
this is
is
why
Wagner.
Futures in small leagues are fun, guys. You have a horse in the race still. And the MEAC, by the way, the best or one of the best MEACs we've seen. While these 2 conferences before are trending down, MEAC's trending up. 5 teams projected at 9-5, 3 are 4-1, 2 more 3-2. Howard, Maryland Eastern Shore, who's been fantastic under Crafton somehow, Morgan State, Norfolk, and NC Central all right there. Exciting times in the MEAC conference. And Jim, you wanted to submit the Big Ten as well for consideration.
Yeah, it's not quite the same parity at the top with the number 1 team, a complete mystery. Like, we know Purdue's the best team in the league. They're projected to win by multiple games. We get it. But I just love the fact that there are 10 of their 14 teams are projected to go 11-9, 10-10, or 9-11, like within 1 game of 500. Just such a shrug of who knows with this. They all beat each other. The only teams above and below that are Purdue and Rutgers are above that morass. And then in the bottom, Nebraska and Minnesota well below it. But the other 10 out of 14 teams just kind of hover right around 500.
Yeah.
Gives you a chance of getting 11 teams in the tournament, Kai, or 12 even.
Could
maybe.
happen.
But who knows how far they'll go. It's going to be a lot of bad seeds in that conference.
Yeah, indeed. And then they'll lose, and everyone will say the Big Ten can't win in the tournament, Matt. It's a bad league, yada, yada, yada.
Right now, the AP poll is Purdue at the top and 0 other Big Ten teams in the top 25.
It's interesting. Very interesting. I don't know where KenPom has them, but I guess there's actually more than one Big 10 team in the top 25.
Confirmed. Rutgers is in there. Ohio State's in there.
Illinois is probably still up there. Okay, that does it for my first thought. A small thought. Passing it to Matt.
Quick Kentucky discussion. I think we just have to check the box as a nationwide pub, or
I believe this is your 3rd straight week with a 3-man thoughts Kentucky thought, which I love. Get your brand going, man.
Guys, that's I mean, their demographic is largely Kentucky fans. That's kind of how the college basketball fans sphere is made up of. But they are very real. I think now 10-6, 1-3 in the league. Now they're at 14-6, 5-3 in the league after 4 dominant straight wins, starting with the big win at Tennessee. Georgia put them to bed second half. A&M mostly convincing, and then Vanderbilt with a very impressive road win, I thought, in a tough spot. It looks a lot like the team we thought. I mean, there's really no profound takes here. I think people kind of forgot amidst the throw shade at Cal how injured this team was to start the year, how healthy they are now with Oscar and Jacob Toppin looking like the their true selves, and their whole game is basically athleticism, right? So like, obviously if you're hurt, you can't really fall back on much if that's where you make your pay. They've been dominant during the run. I mean, Caston Wallace has been kind of the talk of the town, and he's been good, not great. But I just like how like he kind of is starting to feel like the Ty Washington role from last year. It's kind of a stretch of a role thing, but I think he kind of is that piece. And then CJ Frederick back now too is huge. He's kind of filling in the Kellen Grady piece. You put it all together, it looks a lot like last year's team. Good blend of old and new. Size, good old Kentucky can kill you on the glass up front, but with some skill littered in on the perimeter and not sacrificing too much defensively. All around, just like a balanced and more stable, trustworthy team with the veteran pieces there. I like it, Jim. I think they're all the way real. I think they're like, Bama better not be looking over Bama should be looking over their shoulder in the SEC title race. That's all. So,
yeah, they've kind of figured out their identity. It's more of a half court. The defense is at 4 straight games in that winning streak of 1 point possession or less defensively. Like, that's been impressive. Cal talked about how much better Livingston and Reeves in particular have
Reeves
been.
I want solid too.
Specific shout out to Reeves. I mean, his last 6 games scoring output 20, 13, 18, 11, 23, 16, like 6 straight in double figures. He's knocking down threes. He's actually giving them athleticism, length on the wing. He's been a key for him. I buy it too, Kai. The talent's always been there. This was a really similarly constructed team to a 2 seed last year with Oscar dominating the paint, Wheeler the distributor, and then some shooting on the wing. I didn't think the downgrade from Keon Brooks to Jacob Toppin or lateral shift, whatever that is, was enough to undermine what this squad was. So I buy the resurgence completely. I think they're going to finish right now. They're 29th in KenPom. I would be almost certain they finish higher than that.
Yeah, I'm still on board with Kentucky. He benched Wheeler. It's a good start. And they don't have a lot of shooting, but they have quality shooting. Reeves and Frederick are really good shooters. And
that's all you need. Those two. That's all you need.
Them on the floor around Sheboy and a competent ball handler with Wallace, who can also shoot a little bit. It's a pretty good start. And their depth is fine. With Wheeler coming off the bench, that's where you should be. Yeah, Cal figured out his rotation. Jim mentioned they're playing a lot slower in conference play. They're the slowest pace in the SEC on offense. So he's kind of figured out this team's identity, which I think is what they lacked to start the year.
That wraps it up, Matthew, I assume.
That's all I have. Yeah, okay. Sorry. I was just looking at like there was one player I wanted to call out, but no, we got all the key guys. Go Big Blue Nation, I guess, for those who are into that sort of thing.
All right. My first thought is a little bit longer, maybe. It's called Double Dominance, and it's about the teams that have the best offense and defense in their respective leagues based on KenPom's offensive and defensive efficiency. There's only 4 that actually have this right now, but there's another 6 that are like 1 ranking away on one side of the ball from getting there. And we're going to spotlight one team as we do this, but just to mention the teams that have the number 1 offense and defense. Alabama, really impressive that a team in the SEC with the competition that they're going against there has the best offense and best defense right now. Tip of the cap to Mr. Oates, all the newcomers that have joined that squad this year, both via transfer and the freshmen they've added. Team is just a juggernaut right now. Houston, not surprising. Best team in the American, best offense, best defense. That's not anything groundbreaking. But then Charleston in the Colonial, I wasn't sure that they would have a good enough defense, Kai, to be the best in their league, but it is right now. And I think that makes their run sustainable, and the at-large bid, well, I'm not certain by any means. It looks pretty solid right now.
Yeah, you go undefeated in the Colonial. I bet they get a bid, I would say. And also, yeah, I took them in the futures market, and I forgot about them as well. So go Charleston for the Colonial.
Attaboy.
Hooray.
Charleston's good.
Hooray,
Charleston's good. I'm punching back against they shouldn't be in the top 25 Charleston haters. So they're good.
Well, they shouldn't, but they should. They should
right.
Based on the AP poll. Yes.
The correct take is they should not be in the AP top 25 poll, but they are really good. However, don't let they should be in the top 25 poll confuse they're really good take, because they are really good.
I'm okay with them in the poll for the record, but people shouldn't think they're a top 25 team. There's 2 different schools of thoughts there.
Yeah, like they're not the top 25 team in terms of like they're not the 25th most likely team to win the national title.
They're sure, exactly. Yeah.
Oral Roberts is the 4th team that has the best offense and best defense. They are cruising through the summit right now. 112 spots higher in KenPom than any other team. South Dakota State, a lowly 181st, trying to chase them down. Undefeated in the league. I'm excited to hopefully get them back in the tournament because A. Smith's made such a name for himself before, and they're actually playing defense this year. So they've got a chance to pull off some upsets and re-announce their presence to the college basketball world.
Connor Vanover, get ready.
Your boy, the human walking
coming
stick.
out party. People forgot about him. So I'm glad to put him on a March Madness stage. Like, who the hell is that guy? Oh, yeah, he was the guy at Arkansas.
Wait, wasn't that the guy in the picture with Chris Likes where one guy was tall and one was short? Yes, that's the one.
Yes, it is.
All right, teams that are close to being in this distinction. And we're going to do a little bit of a mini spotlight on Florida Atlantic because they are almost there in a league as good as Conference USA. I think that's really impressive. Only UTEP is better defensively. FAU does have the best offense in the league. And I think that's where you start with them, Kai. This team has so much weaponry offensively, so much balance. At any point on the court, they have a dominant big man. They have 2 of them, and then 4 playmakers that can shoot. So this year they have 7 different guys that have made 21 threes or more, 7 different guys with 25 assists or more. Like, it's just flooded with playmakers. I don't know how you game plan against them because you can't take anybody away because everybody else can make a play too. I don't know if we've given enough love to these Owls this year, and I want to make sure we stop and do that right now.
They rock. They are legit. Now I would entertain as a top 25 team in actuality.
I agree.
Not Charleston, before Atlantic, man. They can go. Very high on this team. Hope they make the tournament as well, Jim. They could still get an at-large, I would say. It's possible.
Definitely. I mean, only one loss. They got the win at Florida that's starting to age a little bit better and better. Should have landed in Q1, maybe even Q1A if they get lucky. Mm-hmm. Matt, like this team is last year's Murray State, Wofford 2019.
Yes,
they're that
100%.
caliber good.
Yeah, I think they are too. Like, half the Big Ten teams would have lost at UTEP. What was that last weekend? Like, really solid team, tough spot on the road, kind of at that point in the season where, you can expect some road schedule losses, and FAU just dominated that game. Like, that was everyone and their mother bet UTEP in that game. Like I said, half the Big Ten teams would lose that game. Like, the FAU is that good. I think they're like a middle of the road. Middle of the road Big Ten team. Like, I think they're that good.
That's where they rank analytically at whatever site you feel like looking at. They've been that good. Shout out to Dusty May for cultivating this like mindset of it doesn't matter who scores. Like, if somebody's like, oh, we got to take away Michael Forrest, then Brian Greenlee has a huge game. Or if you take away both those guys, and Jalen Gaffney, the UConn transfer, can take over at the point and put up big numbers. And then just a specific shout out to Janelle Nelly Davis. He's kind of been the skeleton key to the small ball lineups. He plays the 4 for them and is a dominant defensive rebounder. He's strong. He fights. You need a guy like that. Kai, for us back in 2012, it was Mr. English played the 4, small ball 4 for a team when you put 4 perimeter guys on the floor. Hey, I say enough negative about him. He was a fun player to watch back in 2012. But yeah, you need a guy like that, and Davis has risen to that challenge. So respect to him. A couple other teams, actually 6 other teams that are 1 ranking away from being these double dominants. UCLA, only Oregon is better offensively than them in the Pac-12 right now. Purdue, only Rutgers is better on the defensive end. Princeton, only Cornell's better on O. No surprising there. Cornell's offense is like head and shoulders above everybody in the Ivy right now. It's ridiculous. And then Bradley, was shocked to see that in a very parity-ridden league. They're only 1 spot on defense away from being the best on offense and defense in the Missouri Valley. Then UCSB and Iona, each 1 rank away from being the best in their leagues on both ends. Guys, UC Irvine's offense that keeps UCSB away from that honor. Pretty surprising, right?
It is. Irvine's humming, man. Go Anteaters. I love Barbara still, man. People slept on them. They're still really good. Barbara Babs.
Yep. Sandy Babs. Iona, hey, get it together. Win your league. Stop messing around and stressing me out. I don't need that. All right, Matt, to you for your second thought.
So everyone knows me as the big basher on this show, right? I hate all bigs. I discriminate against big men. Man. That's what they call me, like in the streets. Oh, there he goes, big basher. So I just want to correct that reputation, Kai, because I wanted to call attention to, in the year of the big, right, as our loving almanac was so perfectly branded, a quick mid-season interlude as like how that's panned out and just some of the themes I'm seeing amongst the big ranks. Yeah, I think Zach Edey's always been like the microcosm of just, how big men have dominated the year, like the headlines. I think in general, most of them have lived up to the billing. The thing I noticed though, like if you go like through all these teams, like go with like the top 30 teams in KenPom, it's more than I can remember in prior years. Like all of these teams has a legit big or a legit forward of sorts where like it's not so guard centric. I think it's been kind of the key skeleton key, not to be redundant, for like a lot of the. So I kind of try to like think about what are the segments of big men. It's like, well, you have like your dominant like interior forces, right? Like Zach Edey and Oscar. You kind of have what I think of like the defensive demons, like Mitch Saxon and Charles Bediako. Like they know their role, all-star type guys. And then like these positionless utility men, as I was trying to think of a better way to describe them. Like I think of the Marquette bigs, right? Oso and MOP. And I think those are like those three segments this year have been like, if you can harvest one of those types of players, it's like, it's creating, I think, an extra edge for you now relative to prior years. And because there's just this inefficiency in the market for bigs, because everyone wants guards and everyone wants the NBA prototype rim running lob big guys, which this year you just don't see those guys anymore. Like Daniel Gaffords and like think of like all of the old Shaka Smart big men he had at Texas. Like those are like a dying breed. I think you're seeing the smart teams try and find.
The number one of those is supposed to be Derek Lively, and it's a raw prototype. Like that's a guy that needs refinement.
High risk, high reward. And at the college level, I think there's no incentive to recruit those guys because they're one and dones. You're not going to really develop them. You don't get the full value of a multi-year type player. It's just a general, like, as I think about recruiting for coaches as they try and target players, getting creative with how you utilize your bigs for someone who has dismissed bigs. I guess I'm opening my mind, and I'd like to challenge other coaches to open their mind. I think the best coaches are already kind of feasting on this inefficiency in the player personnel market.
I thought this was really astute, Matt. Like
Thank you.
The project-esque big man. It's just like, what's the point? If the NBA is just going to take him after a year, and I have to play him through a bunch of growing pains, and he's not really helping the team all that much in the time he's here, and I'm sure there's a bunch of recruiting time that goes into it, and NIL money and stuff to get these highly ranked like Jarrett Allen types to your team. It's just maybe not as valuable at this point. So getting the more skilled guys, finding the diamonds in the rough, like Iguodaro, that's a great call. I thought that was a very strong point, Matt. I'm proud of you.
Go bigs, Kai.
Zach Edey, I looked it up today. He is KenPom's highest player of the year rating so far since 2015, Frank Kaminsky. He's dominating. So yes, You're the big indeed, the almanac, Matthew. The almanac.
By the way, how is he a runaway favorite right now? Like there's some dudes starting to heat up.
I think the only one truly...
TJD and Jalen Wilson have like been kind of awesome.
Can't give it TJD. Can't do it.
Teams. Okay. He's barely above 500 in his own league. I think like if the stats are similar, it's the guy that's on the 19-1 dominating the conference team instead of I know he's got the like, I think 19, 10, 3-3. The only other person to do that was Duncan.
Yeah. Yep.
But
that's right.
Duncan was like 21, 14, 4, and 3.5. And TJD is like barely clearing each one.
Yeah.
And the team was really struggling. Like there's a chance he gets up in there. But I don't know.
Not anymore. They're back, baby. Jim, they're back. We just talked about that.
If
Purdue keeps winning while he averages 23 and 14. What do you do?
No, I know. I mean, I think he's the favorite. I think there's a scenario where like IU finishes.
No, there's not.
Okay.
He can't
look at TJD. TJD's numbers have been pretty insane. I'm just saying.
They're really good.
Okay.
But Edey's averaging 21, 13, and 3 blocks. Like he's.
I know. I worry about those slowing down in Big Ten play. Sorry, I'm a Zach
10 games in Big Ten play, man.
I know his stats have been as dominant as they were in the non-conference. I'm a little worried. I'm an Edey ticket holder. I was counting my money, and I'm worried it's going to get close. It's going to get close.
His last 3 games: 24 and 16, 12 and 6.
12.
Oh, wham. Then 32 and 17, 24. Like
I know he's only gone above 20 twice in Big Ten play.
The only guy in striking distance is Jalen Wilson because he's doing it at such an extreme level at KU on a national scale. But Edey is still minus 380 at DraftKings, and Jalen Wilson's 8-1.
What's TJD?
Yeah, TJD's down, man. 60-1. If you like TJD, grab him 60.
Yeah, go bet it. Go for it. The numbers are awesome. They need to get to like 15 and 5 in the Big Ten.
They're not even ranked.
Yeah, it's just team success really matters. Look at the guys that have won this award year after year. Team success is super important.
Be like an elite team. Yep.
These are human voters. They're not going to vote for a team that's not ranked, basically.
Yep. All right, Kai, I believe it's to you. Your second thought.
Lopsided lovelies. For those fans of the Weave for a long time, I used to write on the site about the teams with the biggest discrepancies between their offensive and defensive ratings per KenPom, looking at the teams that are awesome on offense and crappy on defense, and vice versa. So this year we have a smattering of teams that fit this bill. Let's look at the most lopsided of them. On offense, Stetson is the most lopsided team in the country. Stetson. That's right. I was shocked to see their offensive rating. They're 37th in the country in offense, guys. 37th.
They just don't miss threes. It's ridiculous.
It's incredible. They're 329th in defense. Congratulations to 292 spot difference. The most lopsided team in the country, the Hatters.
Yeah, Kai, I kept betting Stetson unders because of tempo. And I just hadn't processed my numbers to where, okay, Jim, this is a top 50 offense and a bottom 20 defense. Like you can't have them as a balanced squad. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I usually like to bet totals based on pace, but you can't ignore efficiency when it's like this for this team. Detroit is number 2, 63rd in offense, 348th in defense. My gosh, they're not the only Horizon team on this list. Toledo, if you watch that Eastern Michigan game that we talked about earlier, you will agree that Toledo's defense is terrible. It ranks 298th and their offense is 14th. Wow. That is a major, major difference. Youngstown surprised me, guys. I always thought of Youngstown as a sort of a defensive team, athletic, able to stand up to other teams. They really can't. They're 296 defensively, 26th on offense. San Diego, Matthew, not to your surprise, is 334th defensively and 65th on offense. It seems like Steve Lavin just got talented players and he's not really coaching out there. That's what most people thought would happen out in San Diego. It's come to fruition.
They are abysmal defensively.
And then Cornell, 20th on offense, 281st defensively. This one checks out as well. Those are the top 6. From the power conference perspective, the winner is Notre Dame. 66th in offense, 280th in defense. And of course, Jim, the second most lopsided offensive team in the power ranks is the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah, we don't play defense at all. We are a sieve, but we can fill it up, especially with Mosley stepping in and suddenly becoming a real contributor.
I love it. Yeah, 196 in defense, 6th offensively for the Missouri Tigers. They finally got that 3-point shot back that last game. Hooray. On the other end, defense, offense. Defense is much better than offense. UTEP, we mentioned them earlier. They have the 48th best defense in the country, 329th on offense. Yikes, gross. By far the most lopsided defensive leaning team. Gardner-Webb is 83rd defensively, 312th on offense. Merrimack, no surprises here as well, 133rd defensively, 362nd offensively, the second worst offensive team in the country. Merrimack, how far you have fallen from your heyday of winning the NEC, although they still have a chance, right?
Yeah, I believe, Kai, I'm verifying it right now. They are 2-17 on totals, 2 over 17 unders this year for Merrimack.
Right. These teams should theoretically all be under teams. I have not dug into the details, but I'm sure they are. These efficiencies, and honestly, just target these teams in the market. I don't know why I haven't done that from a totals perspective. Greensboro is the next one, 35th on defense, 257th on offense. Prairie View A&M checks in at 5th, 145th on defense, 350th offensively. And then Georgia State, 119th in defense, 323rd on offense. Matt, we've bet Georgia State a few times. We know what it's like to get a terrible Panther offensive effort.
Hey, they've made 32% of their threes in league play. Whoa,
they're on the
look
upswing.
at that. Yeah.
In the power conferences,
that team.
The most lopsided defensive team is Mississippi State, the 11th best defense and the 172nd best offense. This has been Lopsided Lovelies, Matthew.
Love it. Hey, Matt, I wanted to just check in. Minnesota is down both Pharrell Payne and Dawson Garcia tonight. They have 6 true scholarship players. If you want to bet TJD, maybe bet him tonight before he goes for 35 against that pathetic front line.
He's getting 40 tonight. Yeah, that'll be
if he wants to.
Ooh.
That'd be a
possession
40
count
tonight.
Low?
Yeah. I think it's a blowout. Just screw up and down. A little rec ball stat pad in there.
All right.
There you go. All right. My last thought before we move on to a weekend preview is a quick spotlight on the Pac-12, because I don't think I had fully processed, guys, that the 2-bid Pac-12 is very theoretically possible. We've kind of dunked on the Pac-12 in the past when they've struggled with depth, and they have two real title contenders in UCLA and Arizona. Like, no questions about the legitimacy of either of those squads. But you go down the line, nobody else in the KenPom top 40, nobody else a comfortable at-large entrant right now. If you go to Bracket Matrix, Arizona State is one of the last 4 buys. I think they're the 7th last team in the field. Maybe you tighten that with a couple of bid stealers, and suddenly Arizona State's really close to the cut line. They have a nice record, 5-4 Q1, Q2, but they have a Q4 loss. So it could get dicey for them if they don't finish the year strong in league play. And then USC just barely on the outside looking in. Utah, not quite good enough with a 3-7 record against Q1, Q2 competition. Kai, right now, just gut, without looking at schedules, how many Pac-12 teams are we going to have in the NCAA tournament?
4. Four. I think we'll get 4. UCLA, Arizona, and then 2 of those 3 teams you mentioned, Arizona State, USC, Utah.
Okay. Matt, what do you think? You're not a bracketologist guy, so this is true.
I'm not. I think 4 sounds right to me. Like, I'm just looking at Arizona. Like, why are they still? Maybe it's 5.
Maybe 5. Yeah, maybe
Utah is
3.
where does Bubble Bobby Hurley fall, Jim?
He's probably the one that gets in. The win over Creighton is just going to get better and better on a neutral. It's Q1A. It's the only Q1A win of this group, I believe, unless Arizona at home for Utah is. But yeah, the Q4 loss is going to hurt a little bit, but their resume metrics are really good, like low 30s, which is like should be in.
Here's what sucks. Washington, Stanford, Oregon State, and Cal are all better than they're currently ranked right now. So, like, they're probably bigger landmines for road losses for these teams that are going to be on the bubble than they're probably reflected. So, point being, it's kind of like an MAAC thing we talk about where it's such a tough conference, such a random that a bad loss really hurts you more than it probably should. I think that's probably the case here with, like, again, the status of Washington, Stanford, Oregon State, Cal, who can put together a good game once in a blue moon. You know, like, we see Oregon State beat Arizona in 2 weeks, we won't be like completely shocked by that, right? It's like, oh yeah, Pac-12, weird shit happens.
Yeah, and Cal without Devin Askew, guys, like actually a competent
like
team, right?
Right. Yeah.
Without Devin Askew, yes.
Without
with him,
exactly.
Terrible.
With him, no. Yeah, fade. So yeah, that's just my thought. Just a quick look at the Pac-12 because I was kind of surprised looking at Bracket Matrix. Like, oh yeah, we might not get a 13. There's a realistic world where it doesn't happen, especially with the landmines that Matt mentioned. All right, let's wrap it up with a little bit of weekend preview, taking a look at 3 big-time games on the slate. This is
how'd we do on the predictions, by the way? Did you go back and
I did not. Kai.
Nailed them.
I did not.
Arizona
every single thing we said was right.
Arizona beat UCLA,
TCU
covered, and they won outright. We didn't say that. And you guys were right on Alabama killing Mizzou. I jokingly said Mizzou was going to win without.
Oh, jokingly, he says. Jokingly.
Hey, who knew Kobe Brown would be out for that game? That doesn't count. Whatever. So I say we were 3 for 3, and we're just going to count it.
Yep. Good job. We predicted. We knew the future in that one. All right. We'll start with Kansas and Kentucky, one of the headline matchups of the SEC versus Big 12 Challenge that always pops up here at the end of January. Fun little non-conference tilts to wet your beaks. Matt, how do you see this one going? We've got a 1-point Kentucky favored here. Kansas has lost 3 games in a row. They've never lost 4 in a row under Bill Self. Does that matter to you? Like it will probably matter to bettors, I would imagine.
I think Kentucky wins this game. I do. I've kind of gone back and forth on Kansas all year. Like, I think I disrespected them to start and then was sort of reminded like, oh yeah, now it's still a well-coached Bill Self team with enough talent. Grady Dick emerges. Like, okay, yeah, I kind of can see it. I'm not like questioning Kansas now, but I'm certainly reminded that they have real flaws. And I think this Kentucky team that's white hot will maybe pick them off at a slightly favorable spot. You know, at home, I think the home courts in these always matter, Kai. So all that is to say, I like Kentucky. I think they won.
I'm taking Kansas. I think Kansas wins this game. Yeah, Kentucky's been better, but I'm going to do the little Matt Cox thing here where I pick apart their wins lately. Tennessee, okay, that's a good one. Georgia, they're down. They're down for 30 minutes.
You can't skim past Tennessee so fast. It's an insane win.
You do it.
Insane win. Yeah, no, I would. You're right. It's very much a Matt move.
Georgia, they were losing for 30 minutes in that game. A&M, good spot. Vanderbilt, no Liam Robbins. Boom, there you go. Kansas wins this game.
A&M red hot. Georgia red hot. Vandy also kind of hot.
Georgia's not that good.
Counter.
Kansas wins. They're better.
Yeah, I like the buy low, sell high here. You're getting the team that lost 3 in a row against a team that won 4 in a row. There are limitations with Kansas. I think maybe I like some of the successes they've had. I just forgot that they're not deep and they don't have much shooting at all. Like if Grady Dick's not hitting threes, you hope Jalen Wilson is hot, and he's been pretty good so far lately, but people are leaving DeJuan Harris alone. And Matt, we've sang his praises on this pod before. We should also mention he has 5 total points in their last 4 games. Like
you can't.
1.3 points per game. What 1.3 points per game. He plays 35 minutes.
You got to shoot the ball, DeJuan. He's 50% from 3 in conference play.
I know, but he takes
the last couple games, but take the
most butt naked wide open. It's like Andre Robertson.
Right. Yeah. He's not a great shooter. He's not a great shooter. He's just not. He just takes really good shots that are high percentage, and he makes what he needs to make. It's just when you have McCullough and Harris as like your primary on-ball initiator guys, like you can just play drop coverage against those dudes, pack the paint. Self is great because he's built the offense differently. Like they get, they play with their size and their length, and they get guys off screens and Wilson and Dick and such. But there are real roster limitations here. I mean, it's like Self was awesome last year, right? I think this year, if they continue to stay at that 1-2 spot in the Big 12 standings, this will be like another, Bill Self can coach basketball. So
I keep waiting for MJ Rice to do something.
Yeah, they love him there. I think he's supposed to be a real dude. So
yeah, but he's a top 35 recruit, and they nail him to the bench, and they know they need more from the bench. Like Self has said it on ESPN and Field 68 and stuff. And they're like, for us to be the best version of ourselves, we need to get something from the bench, and not really giving them a chance to. But I guess when you're losing games, it's hard to go to the bench, and that's where they've been. They've been kind of pinned down right now. So
KJ Adams got shut down last 2 games after his kind of surge too. So that's where it gets thin.
All this to say, I'm with Kai in this one. I think Kansas wins. Matthew is the Big Blue Nation backer. Let's go to the other big one at Tennessee. Kai, you just disregarded a Kentucky win at Tennessee, but Texas now goes there. 8-point underdogs per Mr. Pomeroy. Do you think the Horns can do what Kentucky did and get a win at Thompson Bowling Arena?
I don't see them winning. Yeah, Rick Barnes' old team. How about that? I don't see them winning, Jim. I think they can cover. I'm kind of back on the side of, hey, all right, Texas is just good. They have good players. They have a lot of talent.
They beat me into submission in the last couple of games.
They have. They've been poor ATS wise. They just covered against Oklahoma State and West Virginia, but there's just a really, really talented team. So 8 points is probably too much, but Tennessee's awesome, and I've stopped fading Tennessee altogether, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm with you on Texas. I had that epiphany last night. The league in general, I just can't quite figure out. So maybe my Kansas takes weren't as sharp as I'm leading to believe. But Texas, I think competes. I'm with you on that one, Kai, and I think Xavier competes on the road too. So I think you're looking at those last 2. I'm looking at both.
We haven't even mentioned Xavier yet. We're talking just Texas, Tennessee.
I know.
Right
I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun. I think Texas competes in the battle of burnt oranges.
Now you got to get George outside or something. You're trying to rush out the end of this podcast.
Well, I can't find him right now, Jim. He's MIA. So he's probably chewing up some shoes. Big shoe guy.
Yeah, eight does feel a little high. Texas, I'm kind of impressed. They're 6-2 in league play, while teams make the highest percentage of threes against them in the entire conference. Like they haven't gotten much beneficial luck, and they're still 6-2. So I'm starting to surrender. They're not I don't think they're like a top 5 team, but they're better. And Matt, remember, I think on this pod, we said there was like a disaster world where they finished like 9th in the Big 12. That ain't happening.
Yeah, it ain't happening. I agree.
Yep. Last one to mention, Matt kind of hinted at it. Xavier at Creighton. Big old week for the Musketeers here, going at UConn tonight, Wednesday night as we pod, and then at Creighton over the weekend. 2 really tough venues. Trying to stay atop the league. Marquette is chasing them right behind them. Matt, you just said you like the road squad. Tell me why.
It's a high-scoring game. I worry about Xavier's perimeter defense here, but I think it's a good spot for Xavier. I think they lose to UConn on Wednesday and then kind of come back cross-country here, and you get a real good Xavier performance on the road. Again, I worry about the perimeter defense against Creighton's dribble drive, but they can compete up front, and I think they'll be fine on the road in that spot.
Really good home court, Creighton, 8-1 straight up. I don't have the ATS numbers in front of me. I'm sure they're pretty good. I'm going to actually pull them up while I'm looking at this. I have the power of a computer, but I lean towards Xavier as well. I do think they lose to UConn. I think the spot will be with them, and I'm still really impressed by this team. I think they might be better than Creighton on a neutral. and you're going to give me 5 points, probably closer to 4, I think there's value on Xavier's side. Creighton's only 4-5 against the spread at home. So that makes me like Xavier even more, Jim.
Yeah, what they lost outright to Nebraska at home. They had to struggle against St. Thomas in the season opener. Like they've kind of been up and down a little bit. We talked about how streaky they are from beyond the arc. Like when they make threes, they're unbeatable.
Yep.
But they have the nights where they make sub 20% and people are confused. Like what's wrong with this team? I'm going to do the classic. If they beat UConn, if Xavier beats UConn tonight, then I think they have the letdown and get smoked at Creighton. But like you guys are saying, if they lose tonight at UConn, then you get a much better performance from them. I also like having been the Creighton hater on this pod and of the 3-man weave, like I got characterized as it because I wrote the data-based article breaking down why it might be too ambitious to make them a top 5, top 10 team. I'm starting to buy them, man. Despite the fact that they missed Kalkbrenner for 4 games and lost 6 in a row, they're still like top 17 in KenPom. I think that's really impressive.
Yeah, 15th. Yeah.
If you pull those games out, like they've been really good. They've got a higher upside maybe even than I realized. And perhaps they start to realize it down the stretch. So we'll wait and see what happens with Xavier and UConn tonight. And then we'll make our official calls about that Saturday game on our Saturday Field 68 show. So tune into that. There's a little plug. Always be plugging. All right, that wraps it up for this week's episode of the 3-Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. Cheers to Matthew and Kai. Enjoyed dicing it up, chopping it up with you. Thank you to the chat for our live YouTube watchers and commenters. We always appreciate the interaction. If you're just listening, no worries. We're happy to have you as well. We're fans of yours as well. So thank you. Thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll catch you again in 7 days.